Hi, and welcome to Creative Cooking. I'm Dr. Helen. I'm so excited that you've decided to join us for these amazing recipes. I am the author of Reverse It, which is a book that teaches you how to reverse type 2 diabetes. It also comes with a companion journal. So I'm so excited to be able to share with you some of the recipes that we've been using to help our clients reverse type 2 diabetes. In this series, we're going to be talking about recipes that we're going to continue to maintain your newly arrived undiabetic state. And I am so excited that you're going to experience it. Now, I want to make sure you know first off that make sure that you talk to your doctor. This does not substitute for any medical care. So make sure you consult with your doctor to let them know that you're going to be doing some changes and you're going to be making some changes in your diet. But we are going to be so excited because the food is absolutely delicious. You're going to love it. Your family is going to love it, even though it's just for type 2 diabetics. That's what we know. We just share that as a secret, but you will know that anybody can eat it. Today we're going to start with golden milk, and it's so exciting to have it. It's so delicious, and I can't wait for you to try it. The ingredients are 1½ cups of coconut milk, 1½ cups of unsweetened plain oat milk, 1½ teaspoons of ground turmeric, 1 teaspoon of freshly grated ginger, 1 whole cinnamon stick, 2 tablespoons of coconut cream, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup or another sweetener, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Here's how we get started. I first like to turn my heat on medium, and then we're going to pour in our oat milk. We'll pour in our coconut milk. And then we're going to start with our ingredients here to include a little bit of coconut cream. And we'll start whisking that as we go. We'll put in our ground turmeric, fresh ginger that absolutely smells incredible. We have a teaspoon or 2 of vanilla. And that kind of just really helps to round out the flavor. Our sweetener that we're going to be using is maple syrup. Now, make sure that your maple syrup is pure maple syrup. We don't want any one of the kinds of syrups that have sugar added into it. This one's pure maple syrup, has a much lower glycemic index than sugar, and that's important for maintaining your blood glucose levels. And then we're going to pop in 1 cinnamon stick. And we're going to just whisk that around. And basically all we're trying to do is to make sure that our coconut cream is dissolved with the heat. Now this is important because turmeric is actually absorbed with black pepper or with fat. And we are going to be using the fat. So the coconut cream is where we're going to be getting our fat from so that it increases the absorption of the curcumin, which is a part of the turmeric. That's the active ingredient in the turmeric. And what's really important about the turmeric is that turmeric is an amazing anti-inflammatory agent. And so if you have arthritis or joint pain in other areas, in the knees or shoulders, it's a great anti-inflammatory. It'll decrease the inflammation. What's also important about this is that it will decrease the inflammation not only in your joints, but it'll decrease the inflammation from all of those all of the free radicals that actually occur from the things that we eat. Maybe it's the formaldehyde in the carpet or the polyurethane on the floor, but we're going to use this anti-inflammatory agent to neutralize those free radicals to make sure that it does not cause this oxidative stress that leads to disease or that actually worsens disease. So now that we have this very nice golden color, we are so excited. It looks so good. It's very simple to plate. So we have our nice glass here, and we are going to take we're going to do it old-fashioned way, right? We're going to pour it here. And we're going to try to pour it carefully so that it doesn't spill. Now this is where my surgical skills come in. I'm going to just turn the flame off here. And then on top, I have a little bit of, this is just This is actually nutmeg. This is ground nutmeg. And I always like for everything to look pretty. And I have a little bit of cinnamon stick. And this is my steamer. So I'm going to put a little bit of my steamed milk on top, just to kind of add a little bit of that color there and a little bit of fanciness. I have a star anise, and I'm going to put that star anise right there inside, and a little bit of my cinnamon stick. And then I'm just going to sprinkle some freshly ground nutmeg. And that's what it looks like. How delicious. Now, I bet you want to try it. I know you do, but I'm going to do it for you. So even though I made it myself, I'm going to tell you how delicious this is. Okay. You have got to make this today, because you are going to be so excited, your family's going to be excited, and you're going to love it. Let's get started on our next one. Tofu scramble, that is the next one, and it is so delicious. Let me tell you the ingredients. 1 package of organic tofu. I do like to look for non-GMO. 1/2 chopped yellow onion, 2 large garlic bulbs, and I like to mince that. 2 small tomatoes, we're going to chop it, and we're going to make sure we keep the skin and the seeds on them. We're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. Then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes, 1/2 teaspoon of ground garlic, 2 cups of fresh spinach, that's where all that iron is, 4 large leaves of fresh basil, and wait till you smell that one. 1/2 teaspoon of black salt, and then we're going to use a little bit of water to saute, and we'll use that as needed. So first, I'd like to start with a little bit of water. After I turn my pan on, I like to start it around medium heat. And then we're going to just pour in a little bit of water in our pan so that we can get to sauteing our vegetables. Now, most people at this point would use a lot of olive oil and kind of gunk with a lot of olive oil and then saute the vegetables. But what we have learned is that there is a problem with type 2 diabetes and oil. So we have found that it's not just the sugar that's an important part of developing type 2 diabetes or even maintaining it, but it's also the matter of having too much fat inside the cells. So we're water sauteing so we can decrease the amount of fat that's inside the cells. So that makes our glucose easier to get inside of each one of the cells that's necessary for us to produce energy and to make all of the metabolic activities that need to happen in our bodies to go. So we're going to use our water to saute it, and I just have some chopped onions, and then we're going to put in some fresh garlic. I'm telling you, the fresher your ingredients, the best food you'll have. And if you ever want to fool somebody into thinking that you really know how to cook and they're coming in the door, just make sure you just put some onions and garlic in a saute pan and start cooking it, and they'll go crazy. They'll go like, what in the world are you making? And you know that you're just sauteing onions and garlic, but the activity of the onions and garlic for your body is so amazing. It's absolutely incredible. So I'll saute these, and I just like for them to get a little translucent so that water, just like the oil would normally do, but the water is absorbing the flavor. And we're just stirring it around. Just want to make sure we're not scorching the vegetables, but just getting them to just a nice translucent color. You will absolutely smell it all over the house, wafting through as you're cooking the onions. And that'll get some people coming into your kitchen just to try to figure out what you're making. Now, once we get the onions sauteed and a little bit of translucent and the water has a little bit of that flavor, we're going to start building more flavor in the food. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with a little bit of salt in here. I'm going to put in my turmeric in here. I'm going to put in my ground garlic and just saute that around in there. And then I'm going to put in the star of the show, the tofu, the ground tofu. So we just have the tofu just kind of smashed into what I like to call crumbles. And we'll put that in there, and just make sure you fold all those nice ingredients around in there. Now, I don't try to dry the tofu so much because there will be some moisture in this, and so that's okay. So we'll have a little bit of moisture, not too dry, but we don't want all of the fluid that comes in with the tofu either. So we'll just fold that in and just make sure we get some of that yummy, delicious turmeric in here to just lubricate those joints so that we are not all stiff and in pain, right? So we're going to use that turmeric for that. And then we're going to fold in a little bit of something called black salt. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of black salt. I don't know why they call it black salt because it's actually pink. But this black salt has kind of an eggy flavor and an eggy consistency. Even the smell of it is very kind of eggy. So those of you who really like eggs, you can use this and kind of simulate that flavor. So I'm going to pour in a little bit of our black salt and fold that in there. And you can hear that sizzle. Sounds delicious because it's going to taste delicious too. You just wait. All right, so we're folding that in, and I can actually smell eggs right now. I'm smelling eggs. Very interesting. Now I'm going to put in some of that color that I like with these tomatoes. I have kept the skin and I've kept the seeds. There's life in the seeds, and there's a lot of fiber in the skin. So I don't want to remove any of that. I want the food to have not only full flavor, but I want it to have full nutrition. So we're building in the nutrition. Everything that we put in, we're building in the nutrition. Now I want you to say that to yourself. You're building in the nutrition because then it'll be a lot better for you, right? So we're just tossing that around, and you can see how that red puts that nice color in there. And then we have nutritional yeast flakes. This kind of simulates a little bit of a cheesy flavor. So we're going to toss our little cheesy flavor all over our tofu scramble. Now this is like kind of fun to make, I have to admit. I love making tofu scramble for breakfast. People who've never seen it before are kind of amazed that you have something that's not egg and it kind of looks like egg, and when they smell it, they're thinking, but that's not egg, it smells like egg, and it really does. So they will be surprised and you will be excited. So we're gonna just now fold in our spinach. I like to use fresh spinach, and I'll put in a little bit, fold that in, and the spinach is just going to wilt. We don't want to like overcook it. We want it to be a nice bright green color when the dish is complete. So we'll just fold that in there and let it just wilt in there with the heat from the tofu in there. And then when that cooks a little bit, I'm going to add some more of our fresh spinach, because in the spinach, we're going to get not only fiber, but we're going to get iron. We're going to get antioxidants. We are going to get flavor. So again, we're just building in the flavor and building in the taste at the same time. You know, when I first started eating like this, probably 25 years ago, I went to a restaurant, and though they weren't serving tofu, I had to get something that was, you know, vegan, plant-based. We weren't using that term back then, but we wanted to have some delicious food. And so I asked, you know, maybe we can do thus and so. So they brought the food to me, and when I tasted it, I called the waiter back and I said, excuse me, do I have to pay extra to get some flavor in my food? Yeah, that was just a joke. But there was absolutely no flavor. And just because you want to eat healthfully does not mean you sacrifice your flavor. You want your flavor to be in the food, and you want your food to be delicious. Now this tofu is done, and look at that. You see how nice, bright, and green the spinach is? And then my last thing is basil. I will just put in some torn basil, just fold that right into the dish. It adds additional flavor, additional fiber, additional antioxidants, and even greater than that, basil I use a lot because it helps to just neutralize your blood sugars and make sure your blood sugars remain stable. So there we are. Look at how incredible this is. If you were here with me, you would smell it. If you were here with me, you would also taste it. So since you're not here with me, I'll taste it for you. Let's see. Yes. I try to get a little bit of spinach and to have some onions. You can tell the garlic's in there. I missed a little tomato, but we're going to try it anyway. Now, this is delicious. Now, I hope that when you make this, you invite your entire family over because they're going to all love it. Nobody's going to say, oh my goodness, what is that? That's not so good. Because once they taste it, and they taste the fullness of the flavor, you can't help but love it. This is a winner. And our next dish is Jacob's stew. Here are the ingredients. 2 cups of red lentils, 2 carrots, and I like to coarsely chop them, 3 3/4 cup of water, 1/4 teaspoon of fennel seeds, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 5 fenugreek seeds, 1 not chicken bouillon cube, 3 garlic cloves, and I grate those in, a teaspoon of lemon juice, a teaspoon of turmeric, and salt to taste. I always like to use unrefined salt. I do not like bleached salt for obvious reasons. Who wants to eat bleach, right? But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to water saute. Remember, we taught you how to water saute before. We're going to water saute some vegetables. And this time we're going to water saute some garlic first. So we'll put the garlic in. And we put the water in because we do not want the garlic to burn. So we have the water to kind of temper it, and we just kind of let it just become fragrant in the water. We're going to also add to that our cumin seeds. And I know as I was saying what the ingredients are, I probably can guess that somebody was saying, what kind of seeds? Where do we get those seeds from? Well, these seeds actually are easily found, I should say, are easily found in many of our international stores, like Indian stores, because these are spices that are well used in the Mediterranean as well. So you'll be able to find these. I'm also going to use something called a not chicken bouillon cube. And that not chicken bouillon cubes just really kind of rounds out the base of the flavor so you can really get the flavor just infused throughout all of this dish. So we're going to put in 1 cube, and also in there I have my fenugreek seeds. So we're going to smash that bouillon cube in it, and we're really just kind of smashing it in there just to make sure that it can kind of dissolve in our water here. Again, remember we taught you that we want to build flavor. And so this is how we're doing it, with all of these fresh ingredients, the fresh garlic, the seeds, which is the life of the food, right? The seeds. And so we're just letting that fragrance just waft through. While it's wafting through the house, it's wafting through the dish that is to come. While we're doing that, I'm going to take my carrots and I'm going to saute the carrots in that flavor. And you saute the carrots in that flavor, they're going to just soak up all of the seed flavors with the cumin and the fenugreek, and also with the fennel seeds. And we saute that around in there. They're all covered. Now, right now, it looks like there's butter in the pan, but we're not using butter. This is just the water. The seeds are releasing a little bit of their oils into the food, so we're not adding refined oil. We're adding in all full foods. So this is the oil from the seeds, and nothing refined goes in this. Now I am going to add in my beans after this just kind of gives us the flavor and the aroma that we seek. We're going to just add in our red lentils. Now these red lentils have been washed. They've been picked over so that we know there are no fragments in them. And we want to make sure of that because we don't want to bite down on a rock. We want to make sure we're eating just the real food. Now these red lentils, I can just imagine Esau coming in when Jacob was making this lentil stew. You know the story. So Esau comes in and he's famished. He's been out hunting. He's been doing his work. He's sweaty. He's tired, but he's more hungry than tired. And so he smells the lentils being cooked on the stove. And he tells his brother, man, I want some of those lentils. And he says, as I put in my turmeric, he says, I want some of those lentils. And Jacob sees this as an opportunity to get what he wants. So he actually goes in and says, well, I can trade you some soup for your birthright. And Jacob was so skillful. Esau should have known birthright is not worth any soup, but apparently he knew something about that soup that we don't know. And once you taste this one, you'll know the secret, because it was so good that he gave up his birthright. So now we're going to put the water in. Now we are not going to put the salt in yet, and we're not going to put the salt in because we want the lentils to release so that they're not so firm when you eat them. So we put in our cups of water, and we're going to bring this to a boil. Let's turn that heat up. We're going to turn this and turn the heat up so that we can have this boiling. And once we get it to boiling, then we can kind of turn the heat down. We can let it simmer and allow all of those flavors to meld together and wait until it's time to eat them. While we're doing this as well, I am going to actually put in just a little bit of lemon juice. Now, lemon juice has its own kind of salty, a little bit of a salty flavor to it. So oftentimes you'll find that if you use lemon, you likely won't have to use so much salt. And so we're going to put the lemon in first to allow the flavor of the lemon to go throughout the lentils. And then once we do that, we'll add the salt based on how much salt we think we'll need. Now this lentil stew is also with these nice carrots in there. It's got lots of nice antioxidants, lots of flavor that we're putting in through the food. These carrots are actually very good for vision. You've probably heard that before, that it helps with vision. And oftentimes with type 2 diabetes and with any type of diabetes, we get these conditions where it starts to damage the eyes. And so again, we're adding flavor, but we're also adding nutrition. So we want to add something in there that's going to help with the vision. And so we're doing that with the carrots. Most of the people, or a lot of the people who actually lose sight, is because of type 2 diabetes. So there are so many reasons to reverse type 2 diabetes, blindness included. So once that's all done, we put the top on. We're going to lower the heat, and we are going to allow this to simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes, just allowing, again, all of the flavors to meld and get all of that tastiness and all that goodness coming in there, and it's absolutely going to be fabulous. So I'll show you the final product, and it looks like this. This is what our lentils look like. Look at how gorgeous. I just covered it with some fresh parsley, which adds some freshness to it, but there's so much flavor in it, you're going to enjoy it. So we have done 3 turmeric based meals today. We did them because we want to decrease inflammation in our bodies. But we also wanted to make sure that we added flavor into the foods that we ate. So we added lots of fresh vegetables, lots of fresh garlic, just wholesome deliciousness. And all of these things are what we're using to make sure that as we reverse type 2 diabetes, we're not so bored with the types of foods that we're eating because we don't have to pay extra for flavor. Now, does it cost more to eat more healthfully? Probably, because the things that are easier to buy are not good for you. And so when you decide that you are worth it, that you're going to put in a little bit extra to make your own things, to enjoy the whole process of becoming a more healthful you, then you'll put that time in. And I always tell my clients, I say, you know what, you're going to pay on the front end or you're going to pay on the back end. And I tell you, it's a lot cheaper to pay for your health on the front end. So just put in a little bit of extra money to get more fresh vegetables. And once you do that, you'll notice that the flavors of fresh food is so different from prepared foods. When I was younger, I said I would never eat asparagus because we used to get asparagus in a can. And if you have ever had asparagus in a can, you know that it is not tasty. And I swore that I would never eat asparagus when I grew up. But once I grew up and found that fresh asparagus was different from canned asparagus, there was no turning back, and asparagus has become a regular staple in our family. So while you're enjoying your fresh foods, know that what you're also doing is you're reversing your type 2 diabetes, you're satisfying your palate, you're losing some of those excess pounds because eating this way just naturally drops the weight, and you are enjoying life. Because how many of you know that life is better when it's full of health? Because health is your new currency. Health is wealth. So I want you to enjoy all of these meals. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us. We'd be happy to give you some pointers. But I want you to just make sure you enjoy this food. Make sure that you enjoy the flavors. Eat slowly. Enjoy every bite of it, because every bite is tasty and every bite has its own job. Every seed, every onion, every garlic bulb, every piece of parsley, every piece of basil that you put in is on the way. It's good for you and good to you.